What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, January 5th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 14:08 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from here in the US and from overseas. And yesterday, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the US and met with President Trump. They talked about Gaza and Iran, and Trump made some pretty controversial statements yesterday about the U.S. taking over the Gaza Strip and relocating Palestinians in Middle Eastern countries. Okay, now in addition to that, Trump signed an executive order, or actually a memorandum, on applying maximum pressure on Iran, including making sure that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon or ICBMs. So this is very serious, guys. It looks like Trump and Netanyahu are getting ready to strike Iran and to relocate Palestinians and take over the Gaza Strip and redevelop it and put Trump hotels and casinos everywhere. So here's the actual memorandum posted on the White House website. It says here, restoring maximum pressure on Iran. Today, President Donald Trump signed a national security presidential memorandum restoring maximum pressure on the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, denying Iran all paths to a nuclear weapon, and countering Iran's malign influence abroad. Iran should be denied a nuclear weapon and intercontinental ballistic missiles. Iran's terror network should be neutralized, and Iran's aggressive development of missiles as well as other asymmetric and conventional weapons capabilities should be countered. Okay, so get prepared, guys. I do believe that Netanyahu and Trump will order strikes on Iran's missile sites and nuclear sites eventually. It could happen sometime this year even. Okay, want to just play this clip from Trump and Netanyahu's joint press conference yesterday. And here you can see Trump talking about taking over the Gaza Strip. Listen.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too.
So this is absolutely huge news, guys. Absolutely huge. And also, President Trump, while speaking from the Oval Office yesterday, said that the Palestinians have no other alternative than to leave Gaza, saying that he hopes Jordan or Egypt will take them in, with him further stating, quote, the Gaza thing has never worked. If we could find the right pieces of land, and build them some really nice places, I think that would be a lot better than going back to Gaza. So huge news, guys. And also it looks like the U.S. is getting ready to not just strike Iran, but also looks like they're going to be striking Mexico. Here we have a video clip coming from the U.S. border with Mexico. On the left, you have Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, and on the right, you have Tom Homan, the border czar, and they're talking about the cartels. I want you to listen to what they have to say. Pete Hegseth says here that all options are on the table, and he says that he's not going to disclose anything publicly. And he was asked if they would strike the cartels inside of Mexican territory. And he clearly says all options are on the table. And then Tom Homan says that it would be a huge service to not just the U.S., but also to the Mexican people if the U.S. wiped out the cartels. So let me play this for you.
Are there current plans for any of the troops stationed along the U.S. border to enter Mexico going after?
Like I said, all options are on the table, but we would be silly to forecast anything that we're going to do. Right now, our mission is to set in a defense and not allow illegal immigration into our country.
Okay, so the reporter asks, will the troops cross the border into Mexico? And he says it would be silly to forecast anything, and all options are on the table. Listen.
Are there current plans for any of the troops stationed along the U.S. border to enter Mexico going after?
Like I said, all options are on the table, but we would be silly to forecast anything that we're going to do. Right now, our mission is to set in a defense and not allow illegal immigration into our country.
Think about President Trump wiping the cartels off, disappearing. What a great gift for the country of Mexico, right? Less journalists being assassinated, less judges being assassinated, less politicians being assassinated. It would be a much safer country. That would be historic to take the criminal cartels in Mexico, who've killed more Americans than every terrorist organization.
So he says they've killed more Americans than any terrorist organization in the world. That's what Tom Homan, the Borders are, just said now about the cartels, and he said it would be historic if they took out the cartels.
The world to take them off the table, that'd be historic. It'd be good for Mexico and good for us.
It'd be good for Mexico, and it would be good for us. So yesterday, remember the recon plane that flew into the Gulf of California? It was flying right next to Sinaloa, which happens to be where the Sinaloa cartels are based out of. So very, very serious situation. And also we had several U.S. warships off of the Baja California Peninsula last night. Here you can see 2 U.S. military warships and a tanker ship with them to keep them fueled up. Okay, right off the coast of Baja California. So get prepared, guys, okay? I do believe that Trump will go into Mexico. He will strike these cartels either from the air or from the sea, or they may even move troops in on the ground to create a buffer zone, okay? Remember last week they deployed 82nd Airborne and 10th Mountain Division and the 4th Stryker Brigade. Okay, if you're dealing with illegal immigrants, you don't need mountain warfare troops, and you don't need paratroopers, and you don't need strikers that were used in the Middle Eastern wars, okay? So they're definitely getting ready to do something. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And right now, this afternoon, we have U.S. nuclear forces on high alert. We have a nuclear war command and control plane heading down to the Gulf of America from Tinker Air Force Base. These planes are responsible for remotely launching all of our Minuteman III ICBMs, and they can also communicate with our submerged nuclear-armed submarines. We also have a B-52 nuclear bomber that took off from Shreveport, and it actually got aerially refueled by a tanker from Indiana. That is pretty unusual to have a B-52 get aerially refueled over the continental United States. And for the second day in a row, we have more sub-hunters off the coast of Florida near the Bahamas. So something is going on over here. For the last week or so, they've been flying a lot in this area. And last night, you can see here multiple sub-hunters off the coast of Florida. And then we also had, and today and yesterday, we had a massive amount of reconnaissance in Poland and the Baltics. Here you can see a U.S. sub-hunter plane doing probably hundreds of loops off the coast of Kaliningrad near Poland and Lithuania. There was also a NATO AWACS plane that circled all around Kaliningrad and did multiple loops here, okay? So something is brewing, and on my 24/7 live stream, the border cameras of Russia and Poland are now down. They've been down since 2 nights ago when the NATO Joint Forces Command was broadcasting data, and the Russians were broadcasting data as well. And last night on the Russian Stalingrad clock frequency, they were playing air raid alarms, which is really creepy, okay? And then here we have this Swedish recon plane that was also doing loops here in the Baltics, patrolling the border of Estonia and Russia. And then here we have Forte 10, a U.S. RQ-4 Global Hawk that was literally doing like hundreds of loops here along Poland's eastern border with Belarus. And we know that there's thousands and thousands of Russian troops here piled up on the border of Poland. Specifically, there's hundreds of air defense sites near Hradna and Brest. Okay, these two cities here in western Belarus, which have a large Polish minority. These are former Polish cities before World War II. Historically, a very tense area for Belarusian and Polish relations because of all the Polish people still living there. And then here we have a British sub-hunter that was patrolling the North Sea, possibly monitoring the undersea pipelines and cables here that go from Norway to the rest of Europe. And then last night we had something going on in eastern Poland. We had an MRTT aerial refueler near the border of Belarus and Ukraine, and at the same time there was a Polish AWACS plane, and then also there was a Polish border guard plane in that same area of eastern Poland close to the border of Belarus and Ukraine. And this happens to be an area where there's like 20 or 30,000 Russian forces piled up right there 2 or 3 miles from the border of Poland. Okay, if you watch inventor Lee Wheelbarger, aka KLW World News, he's talked a lot about that. Check him out. He's on Rumble, and I don't think he's posting on YouTube anymore. And then we had some Russian VIPs go up to Murmansk, which is home of the Russian Northern Fleet. That's where they have most of their nuclear-armed submarines. Took off from Moscow, went up to Murmansk, and then came back, which is pretty interesting. And Syria's transitional president Ahmad al-Shara and Turkish President Erdogan will discuss a joint defense pact in Ankara, including Turkish air bases in Syria, army training, and air defense cooperation, sources told Reuters. So Syria is really getting cozy with Turkey. And the Pentagon is developing plans to withdraw all U.S. troops from Syria within 30 to 90 days, per two defense officials. The U.S. Postal Service announced last night that they would be temporarily suspending the acceptance of international packages from both China and Hong Kong. And after they announced that last night, today they posted an update saying that they would continue accepting international inbound mail and packages from China and Hong Kong. So it looks like, I don't know what happened, but last night they said they were not accepting packages from China and Hong Kong, and then today they said they would be. And in an interview with Piers Morgan, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, said he wanted nuclear weapons and missiles if it would be several decades before Ukraine joined NATO. And Defense Express is reporting that the ban on using Western weapons deep inside of Russian territory has been completely lifted. And the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said this morning that contacts between Russia and the U.S. are ongoing through individual departments and have recently intensified. And Moscow is ready for talks with Ukraine, even though Zelensky currently has no legal right to lead Ukraine, Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, said today. So very interesting that Russia now is willing to talk with Zelensky when before they did not even want to talk to him. And Zelensky said, "We already have working dates for when the American team will arrive. The dates and composition are now being agreed upon, and we are waiting for the teams." He also said the issue of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant will be raised at the first meeting with Russia in a diplomatic format. He also commented on the minerals for weapons deal with Trump. He said, "We are open to the fact that minerals can be developed with our partners who help us protect our land and push the enemy back with their weapons, their presence, sanctions packages." And this is absolutely fair. I talked about this back in September when we had a meeting with President Trump. So very interesting. And the Russians launched ballistic missiles at Izium in the Kharkiv region of Ukraine. Currently, 5 people are dead and 38 injured. And the head of Ukraine's military intelligence, Kirill Budanov, denied that North Koreans left the Kursk region. He said their activity has simply decreased due to heavy losses, but about 8,000 are still participating in the fighting. And Ursula von der Leyen said that the EU would start accelerating the supply of weapons to Ukraine. And Israel opened its own embassy in Moldova, according to the foreign minister of Israel, Gideon Sa'ar. And CBS News is reporting that USAID missions in countries across the world have been instructed to immediately cease all operations and for staff to return to the U.S. by Friday. And the CIA offered all 22,000 of its employees the same buyout offered last week to millions of other federal employees, which includes 8 months of full pay and benefits in exchange for their resignation, but originally did not include employees deemed vital to national security, such as the CIA or military. This comes as U.S. President Trump hopes to reduce the federal workforce by up to 10% before the start of 2026, with over 20,000 federal employees having already accepted their own buyouts. All employees have until Thursday at midnight to accept the buyout. Wow. Okay, so 22,000 employees of the CIA basically being laid off. And the CIA has also frozen all hiring, including for those already offered positions. Wow. So that's a little bit concerning that they want to completely gut the CIA. I mean, we do need some intelligence. We can't just have no foreign intelligence service. And the U.S. Central Command says Iraqi security forces enabled by CENTCOM conducted precision airstrikes in the vicinity of Kirkuk on January 31st, killing 5 ISIS operatives. And the Japanese Prime Minister will be meeting Trump on February 6th through the 8th. And the White House is preparing an executive order to eliminate the Department of Education. And what you're looking at here is a memorandum that was sent out in West Point about the elimination of various DEI programs. Says here the following clubs are hereby disbanded: the Asian Pacific Forum Club, Contemporary Cultural Affairs Seminar Club, the Corbin Forum, Japanese Forum Club, Korean American Relations Seminar, Latin Cultural Club, National Society of Black Engineers Club, Native American Heritage Forum, Society for Hispanic Professional Engineers, Society of Women Engineers Club, Spectrum, and Vietnamese American Cadet Association. Wow. And Trump is expected to go to the Super Bowl this coming weekend in New Orleans. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with another update. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by My Patriot Supply. Guys, My Patriot Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to go to preparewithNYPrepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. They're selling their 3-month emergency food supply for just $600, so that's $100 off the normal price. And this is 3 months of food at 2,000 calories per day, has a shelf life of up to 25 years, and all of this is packed into 6 rugged water-resistant buckets, and free shipping is included. And they're also offering a disaster replacement warranty, so if your food supply gets destroyed by a natural disaster, they'll replace it for you with no charge. And they also will provide you with free survival books and information, including a natural disaster field guide, a survival Bible digital copy. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get $100 off the My Patriot Supply 3-month emergency food supply, and the link is in the description below this video.